Let's go straight into other topics for discussion around the world. And of course, we have our searchlight beamed on Afghanistan, where after the exit of the United States, the country has fallen to the Taliban's, where a lot of things are going on. People want to escape. The Taliban has taken over, and there is palpable fear all over the land. Uh, the fear of Taliban rule. Remember that Taliban rules became notorious for punishments, including public executions for convicted murderers and amputations for people found guilty of theft. In fact, the name of that country has already been changed by the new leadership to Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan. So there is this fear around the world about women who were almost completely excluded from public life, such as employment and education, with girls aged 10 over discouraged from going to school. Even before now, the militant group has also banned television, music, and cinema and destroyed non-Islamic relics, such as in 2001 when the famous Bamiyan Buddha statue in central Afghanistan was demolished. Now, let me bring in our discussant, Dr. Colin here. Dr. Colin, you saw what's going on in Afghanistan. Everybody's scrambling to safety with the United States exit from that country. What's going through your mind when you look at the visuals we see on the television screen?
Thank you, Mr. Vincent. I think what we are seeing here, it's to some people, it's like it's taking them unawares, but to many, we know it will come to this. Let me just take you a little bit back to history. And history tends to repeat itself. The only thing is that we tend not to pay heed to the information that history has with it. We all remember that around the 18th century, 1839 thereabouts, there was this British expedition in Afghanistan, and we know how it really didn't pan out well. And it was called the First Anglo-Afghan War. Know that the winter was a real issue for the invaders, and at some point they had to pull out. And there was also the second expedition around, I think, many years down the line, probably around 1878 thereafter. It led to what they call the Kandamak Treaty that was signed in 1880. And this agreement brought in a new leader, traditional leader, or emir as they call it in that era, Abdul Rahman. And the British also left. And we saw at some point the Leninist Marxist movement of Stalin and all that in and around something like 1979 when the Soviet tanks rolled into Afghanistan. And, you know, they had this party they called the Clarks and the Pasham and all that. And during that time, U.S. was worried about communist encroachment towards the Asian area. And they had to join to fight the Soviet Republic. And they also were instrumental in the formation of Al-Qaeda at the time. I think in 1989, the Soviet Union had to depart, had to leave. Now, we also know down the line that you had the Mujahideens who were the ones fighting the war at the time. And the Mujahideen, for some reason, didn't have the political clout. And that brought about the Taliban that then swerved in to take over many of the provinces. One thing they did wrong, they were good administrators. They had this Islamic agenda, yes. They had the Sharia law behind them. But they were good administrators. They bought into the people. The people were part of them. One mistake they made was that they allowed Al-Qaeda in. And Al-Qaeda had that place as a stronghold. Osama bin Laden came in, took the place as a headquarters. And from there, we now know what then happened. September 11th, they hijacked 4 US jet lines and slammed them into various buildings and infrastructures of the United States. And that brought about the war in Afghanistan. And prior to the war, the CIA had already gone into Afghanistan. They were trying to work with some of those warlords that were still existing, that were not under the control of the Taliban. It didn't work. An outright war, Operation Enduring Freedom, was declared in October 7, and I believe 2001. They have been there since then till today. And a lot has been put in. They wanted to transform the country. They installed leadership. That wasn't even leadership anointed by the people. So we knew a time was going to come when this invasion was going to expire. We also remember vividly the Doha Agreement that was led by former President Donald Trump in good faith.
So sorry, but before you go to that, Dr. Colin, let me ask you. This is the 20th year, America's 20th year in Afghanistan, and since they came in, just like you said, I want to thank you first for that historical incursion. Now, after 20 years of United States occupation of Afghanistan, what success would you say they have achieved, after committing almost $1 trillion and 20 years and, many other resources into this Afghanistan war?
Point of correction, Mr. Vincent, they have put in 2.26 trillion US dollars. Britain has put in 37 billion pounds, and Canada has put in 18 billion Canadian dollars. So it has taken a lot, but what have they achieved? We have to be hopeful that because bear in mind that if you were 20 years ago, you are now 40 years. So you are one of the commanders of the new Taliban. So is a new Taliban a reformed Taliban, one that would allow some kind of liberalism, some kind of free will to people, like you rightly mentioned during your introduction, more rights to women? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Can they be trusted? If they can be trusted, why is it that Cobra in UK is meeting? Why is it that there are security meetings here and there in the US? They projected it was going to take 9 months for the Taliban to take over. Then they adjusted it to 6 months, then 3 months. So it's not going to be as they planned. I believe so. But I have to remain optimistic, and I hope lessons have been learned by the Taliban. If any other person is going to unite that nation, it has to be the Taliban. I believe that the Taliban now may be the reformed Taliban, because if you watch the video that Mr. Mark Godwin, the producer, shared with us, you will see behind them is a picture. Don't know whether it's a painting by somebody contemporary or something historical painting behind of Jesus Christ actually preaching to his disciples. I know Jesus is also a prophet of Islamism, but here you have it behind, and proudly they are sitting, having it all there. Previously, they would have used their gun and shot it or something like that, something ridiculous. So
yeah, someone actually mentioned somewhere that it's possible they were yet to notice that image there, being that they are carried away by the euphoria of their victory. By the time they notice it, that it's possible they will replace it with the appropriate one they consider more appropriate. Don't you think?
Yeah, but they knew there was an agreement. Let me inform you that there were ongoing discussions so that there will be reduced bloodshed in Kabul. So these things were arrived at a round table. So it's not that it's happening spontaneously. So it was already agreed that there will be that kind of handover, a transition government, and the president was going to go on exile or leave.
Okay. Thank you very much. I like the fact that you expressed optimism about a born-again or a rebranded or a 21st century Taliban government. To confirm that also, I think their spokesperson, Mr. Shaheen, while talking to BBC, also expressed their desire to give access to women, to be educated, and women, meaning that women would have to be allowed to go to school and be allowed to work, and also be allowed to leave their homes without a male accompaniment, but they would be expected to wear their hijab. They promised to respect the rights of women. They said that their policy is that women will have access to education and work. They also have ordered people not to leave the country, that they would need all the talent and the capacity, to grow the new country. But let me ask you, Mr. Mark, from what Colin said, the historical reference he made, Britain has been there in the 18th century. Russia has been there and failed. Now, US, if I'm talking about the Mongolians were also conquered by the Afghans, years back, centuries back. The British came and left, defeated. Russia came and left, defeated. US has gone in, spent 20 years, and came out with their tails between their legs, however they want to put it. Now, what is this thing that drives the Taliban? Why is it difficult for so-called world powers to defeat them?
That's a very good one. First of all, may I say that this is brilliant discussion going here. Dr. Uju is giving us great insights. And I wish a lot of history students will be listening to this. Coming to the Afghanistan situation, it's a serious thing happening there. Right before our eyes, events is proceeding, and some of these events also is out of control. What we see is a country that is landlocked with a different mindset of people. The Afghans are people that have a totally different mindset. And out of that territory, we see the Taliban. The Taliban are Islamic organization, militant one for that matter, with that Sharia belief. They believe in Sharia, even though now they are trying to say it's an innovative kind of Sharia law. So, but it's something is really brewing there, and that could boomerang around the world. It could have some effect around the world, obviously. Why the Western world probably could not have had control over the Afghan is because the West don't really understand these people very much. And that's why you see America and some of these NATO organizations putting out institutes and structures inside Taliban, Kabul, to study the people, to understand the people. But it's still hard for them to do that because these are first of all, these are hardened people. The land itself is landlocked with mountains and hills and thick forests. And so people coming out from such a location have a different kind of mindset from what you have here in the West. So they are.
You mean that they are ideologically driven, and it's actually difficult to conquer, ideologies. If a war being fought with ideologies, right?
That's it. That's more like what I'm trying to say. So you have a situation where we're looking at a people that are hell bent in their ideology and hard to conquer.
And they have been fighting all their life.
Yes, and when you have this belief of dying for Allah and going to heaven to get seven virgin, obviously, whoever thinks like that doesn't see death as a deterrent. They don't see death as a deterrent. Exactly, they don't see as we see. So he wants to die. He wants to die. He has something better waiting for him, like he believes. So this makes them also think hardcore. Their thoughts are hardcore. They go all out for what they want to do. They go all out. See how they just taking over the whole country. Now, Afghan is being ruled by an Islamized organization called Taliban. That's just what it is. And the great Dr. Uju has given us some high points there. So
yeah, I will come back to Dr. Colin just in a moment. I like the fact that you mentioned I feel a lot of people have said it, a lot of scholars have said it, how difficult it is to conquer, a people driven by ideology and a people who's known war, who's been fighting all their life. But looking around the world, especially, let's beam our searchlights now on Africa, our dear Nigeria. We have a similar situation in Nigeria, Dr. Colin. And are there lessons to learn here, considering that we have a group of people with similar tendencies in Nigeria? For instance, in the north, they are practicing Sharia. In fact, in Kano State, we have the Hizbah police who seem to have grown stronger than the state police. And again, we are facing this terror threat by bandits, Boko Haram, herdsmen, masquerading in different forms, but targeted towards a common goal. Is Nigeria facing any such threats of, the terrorists, the people, terrorists in Nigeria taking over government any soon?
And thanks, Mr. Vincent, and thanks, Mike Godwin. Just before I answer the question, let me add some few points to what Mike Godwin said earlier. As you well know, or may have envisaged, the topography of Afghanistan helps for guerrilla warfare. It's highly mountainous and a lot of forest as well. And these mountain alpine areas are intertwined with Pakistan, and because of it, what it means is that these Taliban warriors can easily run into Pakistan. They can easily go into natural caves and hide, and all these heavy bombing by America may not get to them. Number two as well is that there is something, a resentment to the invasion idea. Anybody that is coming into that country is seen as an invader. So if you are going to defeat whatever that is happening there, you need to work with the locals, you need to work with the warlords, you need to work with well-established institutions that are there already. But so some of these is just to add to what Mr. Godwin said. Now, going direct to answering your question, Nigeria, it's a unique case. And just to take you a bit to history, the British conquerors or colonial masters who governed Nigeria at a time in history, they had, when they amalgamated Nigeria in 1914, they had a different approach to governance. They had what they called a direct rule for the southern territories or provinces, and they had the indirect rule up in the north. So Islamic agenda has always been there in the north, while in the south, our way of life, our African traditional religion was conquered and defeated and destroyed completely. So that meant that in the north, they still hold tenaciously to their religious belief, albeit the fact that some of them can be so cruel and rejected by civil society. On whether they are going to conquer Nigeria, I doubt. One is that we know that some of these people are also insurgents, some of them coming from Chad, some of them coming from Niger, infiltrating into Nigeria. And to give you an idea that they might be, some of them might be insurgents, is that they are killing without minding who you are, whether you're a Muslim, and even Muslims, they have factions as well. You have the Sunnis, you have the Shiites and all that, you have the Mujahideen, and they are killing everybody they are seeing that crosses their path to this extremist Islamic ideology. The Nigerian government is not doing enough to challenge them. It's not doing enough to stop them. There is a and sometimes playing the devil advocate when the Nigerian government wants to take them up directly. You see tribalism start playing. Even Buhari at some point when he was the opposition was also siding Boko Haram, saying that, oh, no, you are killing our people, and they are not terrorists. So tribalism is a key issue. But whether they would conquer Nigeria, it's just wishful thinking. I don't think it's going to happen. And there is no need for scaremongering. Thanks, Vincent.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Colin. Many would want to disagree with you, especially seeing that these insurgents are growing on a daily basis in capacity and strength. We saw them recently bring down, in fact, they've been bringing down airplanes, military airplanes that made attempts, to attack them. In some cases, in the last instance, of course, the pilot was able to escape with his life, but of course, the plane was lost in that process. We've also heard about complicity in the military, and today some of them are coming out. So anyway, we'll talk about that later. But the thing is, some people would disagree with you on this call when you say they cannot take over Nigeria. We can only pray about that, pray very hard that they don't get to take over power in Nigeria someday.
Vincent, the thing there is that every military that wants to succeed needs to be seasoned and disciplined. If you are going to war, you need to be ready to fight. And let me tell you, it took the Americans nothing to defeat the Taliban. It took them nothing because they are seasoned and disciplined. But in Nigeria, the Nigerian military, they don't mind bribing in the middle of the war, in front of the war, even at the war front, they are taking bribe. So even the aircraft that was supplied, they must have shortchanged themselves. Look, the Taliban taking over Afghanistan in 1 week is that the Afghan military are corrupt and not disciplined. That's it. Terrorists don't wake up and win you like that. No. They win you because they know that you are deficient. And what is making you deficient is in you.
And they capitalize on those weaknesses.
That's it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Colin, on that call.